Hello everyone and welcome back to Destiny. One of the more obvious returns for this expansion is the return of the Sleeper Simulant. It is a weapon that is made available to you by the World Quest for Mars after completing the Warmind campaign. In this video I'm going to show you how you can get your hands on it, some tips on getting through that exotic quest, and how the weapon performs in comparison to Destiny 1. Let's get into it. Alright, so for the first part of the quest, you're going to want to activate the Data Recovery World Quest. This is made available to you after completing the Warmind campaign, and it will have you work your way back to Rasputin's Mine Lab to get a very special engram. You will then make your way over to the next step of the Data Recovery mission, and this will send you off to decrypt that engram into a very special hand cannon. You're going to get very familiar with this hand cannon, so buckle up. The next step is going to be Violent Intel. You make your way back to Anna Bray, and she will have you kill a bunch of Hive and Cabal with precision damage. The nice thing to keep in mind is that you don't have to actually be using this gun, you simply have to have it equipped in your energy slot. What does this mean? Well, you can do a couple things. You can pull out your favorite primary and get precision hits, or you can lean into it like I did and just make this gun your best friend. It's a pretty decent hand cannon and it is kind of fun to use, so it's not that annoying. Now, in order to progress yourself past that first couple steps, you're also going to want to do the Nascent Dawn 1 of 5 quest at the same time. This is going to unlock those nodes around the destination for you to unlock later on in this quest. The good news for this quest is that we have 2 lost sectors on Mars, one of them for Hive, one of them for Cabal, so you can continue to farm them over and over again, and you will get through this step pretty quickly. After completing that step, you will have the next step in the quest, which will have you defeat powerful enemies. The cool thing about this step is that you don't have to do it on Mars, you can do it anywhere you want. The fastest way absolutely to do this is to take a sniper rifle, hopefully you have the Darcy, and you can simply load into the very beginning bridge, kill the Cabal, queue back into Leviathan, rinse and repeat. If you don't want to do that, I recommend heading over to Nessus and grinding out some public events. Most of the public events on that destination feature those powerful enemies, which is essentially any enemy with a yellow or orange bar, and you should be able to finish that step in no time. Now, the next step of this quest is a bit more challenging, and that has you complete 5 heroic strikes. This is pretty straightforward. Queue into Vanguard Heroic Strikes, and just hopefully you can get through it as fast as possible. Don't be discouraged by players quitting. If anything, I would recommend sticking around in those empty rooms if players do quit after a few failed attempts, and you should find people matching back in pretty quick. Now, the next step is where things are going to take a little bit longer. First up, you have the fact that you have to complete 3 escalation protocol levels, and then you have to collect 15 sleeper nodes, and that doesn't count anything you would have collected before this step of the quest, so I would recommend holding off until you get this step. To open those nodes, you're going to need resonant stems. Every 4 will grant you an override frequency, which will give you a very cryptic description of where they're located. You can get the resonant stems from public events and from lost sectors. What I ended up doing was doing public events. Between public events, I would grind out lost sectors to get them even faster. And I think that's pretty much it. I think there's a couple chests around the destination that will grant them to you. And I think the escalation protocol chests give them as well, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Anyways, you'll eventually come across the fact that you have to complete 3 levels of escalation protocol. Now, this does not mean that you have to get to level 3 of Escalation Protocol, it just means you have to complete 3 level 1s, and this is probably going to be what is most realistic. For me, I just kind of gauged the area that I was in. If there was a lot of people around, say like right after a public event, then I would go ahead and activate it and just hope for the best. That's pretty much all you can really hope for if you're a solo player. If you have a team that you can pair up with, that's going to make things a lot easier, but I know that's not available for everybody. Now, after completing the escalation protocol levels and collecting 15 nodes, you will be granted a protocol perfected form quest item, which will have you complete the Will of the Thousand story mission, but this time at higher light. But it is beyond doable on your own. Once you finish this step of the quest, that's it, you finished. You get the Sleeper Simulant. It drops at the soft cap of 345, unfortunately, but it is the Sleeper Simulant we know and love from Destiny 1, but there does seem to be a few buffs and a few nerfs as well. Of course, if you're not familiar with this weapon, this is one of the first linear fusion rifles of Destiny 1, and in that game had the potential for some of the highest DPS you can deliver because you had a much larger magazine than you do in Destiny 2. Of course, this laser overpenetrates enemies and bounces off hard surfaces. The cool thing about this weapon is that the bounce off behaves a little bit differently than we remember. In fact, it's a lot different. It's a scattering of 5 shots. Other notable changes is much slower aiming down sights animations, and the initial laser burst is a little bit thicker, so it's a little bit easier to hit your enemies. But aside from that, it does suffer from having only 2 in the mag. This is a decision that I just can't really wrap my head around, especially since it's an exotic. I don't really know why they felt the need to take the DPS King title away from the Sleeper Simulant, but here's to hoping in a few months that we get a balance pass that gives us maybe 4 or 5 in the magazine like it was in Destiny 1. Now, as you saw in this footage, it's very useful against powerful enemies, but aside from that, I don't actually recommend it for straight DPS, unless you don't have Darcy. Darcy is just such an incredible gun. It will give you about 40 to 50% the damage that you can do with the Sleeper Simulant, and especially considering that weapon's Masterwork perk, it's sort of a no-brainer. My opinion is if they want to go with 2 in the mag, they needed to make this gun even more powerful. Even with the scattering of 5 shots, it's still not the most practical gun to use against crowds or to rely on that scattered shot for any actual damage. In the end, this gun feels really powerful to use, but it's just not what I would recommend for DPS, especially considering that sniper rifles are making a comeback in a huge way, with Darcy and another very secret sniper rifle that might actually become the actual DPS king in this game. But anyways, let me know in the comments below if you already have the Sleeper Simulant. How do you feel it performs next to its Destiny 1 counterpart? Let's discuss. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe for more Destiny content. And I will see you all next time.